Hello everyone, welcome to lecture 9 of my course. In this lecture we're going to be going over the looks and sound categories in Scratch 3.0. Without any further ado, let's get started. I'm going to go new project. If you're following along, feel free to do the same and name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it looks and sound demo. Not the best with names, as you can probably tell so far. But feel free to get creative, of course. Just going to name it. Can't type today. Looks and sound demo. Just like that. Now, of course, we went over the motion category is blue. Now, looks is purple and sound is pink. And you don't really have to know the colors, the difference between them, but it just kind of helps you categorize and organize a little bit, or distinguish. I'll just get right into it if you guys don't mind. I know you guys are probably excited to get some of those projects we're going to work on. So, we do have to really establish what these mean so you guys don't get lost, since you guys will be able to make your own. But I know you guys are also wanting to get into some of the fun stuff, but I will make sure you guys understand this as best I can. So, you got two save functions, you got two think functions, and the first kind of batch of functions here, this first group of four for looks, is very, very similar. So don't let the fact that there's four of them intimidate you. The first parameter is a string of text. We'll get into data types a little bit more later. But hello world would just be the text is going to output in 2 seconds, which is the parameter. I can make it whatever I want. I can make it 3, 4, 5. I can make it 0.1 or 0.1. But I'll just do 2 since that's the default. And it'll say that text for however many seconds you want to. So it's going to say hello world for 2 seconds. Let's try it. Boom. Hello world. Now this does the same thing except for it toggles it. So there's no set amount of time. It'll just keep saying that until you stop either that script or all the scripts. I'm just going to stop all the scripts using this. But of course, I'll show you later how to stop an individual script, which is really useful. And what think does, so this is a speech bubble. If you've read cartoons or anything like that, or read comics, you know this is kind of like all connected into one. For think bubbles, it's the same thing except for it's like dotted up, and then there's a bubble right here. So it's literally just the difference in looks of the bubble. That's the only difference between say and think. So it'll think whatever you want it to think. So let's say dot 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 for 2 seconds, or we can just make it toggle the dot 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 for until we stop that script or stop all the scripts like I just did. And on the very rare occasion that I use them or that you'll probably use them, I usually use say, but it's obviously up to you. Let's go over these. These are fairly simple, but I still want to go over them. I'm not going to just blow anything off as intuitive. I want you guys to understand this all. So, switch costume. What switch costume does, I'm actually going to name these just to make things a little bit easier. You don't have to, though. I'm just going to name my sprite cat. I'm going to name my costumes real quick. I'm going to name this one standing. It looks a little bit like standing to me. I'm going to name this one running because it looks a little bit like it's running to me. I can select this text. There we go. So, if we go switch costume to standing, and we're already, well, if you switch the costume to the costume you're already on, it won't do anything. Like, I'm trying to switch to standing, but I'm already on standing. Won't do anything, but if you switch to a costume we're not on, it'll just switch that costume instantly. And next costume just cycles between them, so it'll just be a numeric cycle. So let's say there's 10 costumes total, and you're on number 5. It'll just go 5 through 10, and then start back at 1 and keep cycling until you stop doing the next costume. Backdrop has more parameters in the drop-down parameters than just the backdrops available. So you'll have backdrop 1 or however many other backdrops you have, like backdrop 2, backdrop 3, forest, stage, whatever you want. But you'll also have next backdrop, previous backdrop, and random backdrop. Let's say you have 10 backdrops and you're on number 5. Again, all hypothetical, we only have 1 in this case, but next backdrop will put you on 6, previous backdrop will put you on 4, and random backdrop will put you on a random one between 1 and 10, or however many you have. Now you can just switch between them again if you're trying to switch the backdrop that's already selected, so won't do anything. And next backdrop will just again numerically cycle between the existing backdrops. So let's say you're on 5, it'll just go all the way to 10, and then start back at 1 until you stop doing next backdrop, and so on. And those are fairly straightforward, but you're going to be using switch costume a good amount throughout this course. Change size and set size. Let's talk about the difference, and also let's talk about this size value here a little bit more. So again, pretend there's an imaginary percent symbol right here. There's already one right here, but pretend there's an imaginary percent symbol right here as well in the change function. So all this does is change by 10% or whatever parameter you pass to the function. Set size to 100% or whatever parameter you pass to the function. So let's say you change size by 10. We're now at 110, so it'll change by 10%. 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. We can even go back. So if you have a negative, it'll go down. So this will just go negative 50%. We're back at 100. Go again, we're at 50%. And we can also set to a static value. Say I want 80% to be my default, I can just go straight to 80 without having to do something weird with the change function and having this like a variable amount each time. I can just use my set size function, and that'll be a static, or static just means unchanging, so just an unchanging value. So I can just, no matter how big it gets, I can just always set it back to 100, that type of thing. So set size is really useful, but you're going to use change size quite a bit too, as you'll find. And that said, let's get into graphic functions. There's graphic effects. There's actually 7 of them. So there's color, fisheye, whirl, pixelate, mosaic, brightness, and ghost. So let's elaborate. We have color, and that's a very common one. Brightness, ghost, and pixelate are also fairly common. You probably won't use fisheye, whirl, and mosaic a whole lot. But, you might be working on some cool art project, and that's pretty cool. But basically, all 7 of these effects are by default at 0. All of these have a value that's stored within the program, and all of them are by default at 0. So if I go color effect 0, nothing's going to happen because already there is the default. If I go clear graphic effects, that sets all 7 to 0 instead of an individual effect to 0, or whatever I want to set it to, and therefore it doesn't do anything since all of them are already at 0. However, let's say I change my color effect by 25, and again, and again. I'll just keep changing it again, and again. I clicked it 5 times, so I can just go minus 125 to get back to 0, or I can not worry about how many times I'm changing this, and just go set color effect to 0 and set it to default. Now, I want to actually go over what right-clicking does before we go any further. What right-clicking does, so you have undo, you have redo, you have cleanup blocks, and cleanup blocks just aligns them like that, and aligns all your scripts actually, so even if they're like stuck together, it'll still do it. Add comment, we'll get to that very soon. Delete 3 blocks, well, or however many you have on the screen, it just deletes everything. If you right-click on a block, it'll just go duplicate, add comment, delete block. Again, delete, deletes. We'll get to add comment later. But duplicate. So what duplicate does? Yes, it will duplicate the block if you have one selected. But if, say you have a bunch tapped together, it'll delete everything on and below what you have selected. It's like that. Or like that. And that type of thing. So, let's say we want to do color and fisheye and ghost. So I can set all of these effects to 0. It would be easier just to clear graphics effects, and so it would set all 7 effects to 0, thus clearing them all. So it's pretty cool. I'll just show you all these real quick. Color changes color. Fisheye makes the center go out and kind of compresses the edges a little bit. Whirl kind of makes it spin in and on itself, just like that. It goes in a counterclockwise motion and keeps going. It's a little bit of a silly effect there. Pixelate pixelates it, makes it a little bit more blurry. That's kind of a drastic parameter. You can kind of see it more if I go like by 5. Kind of like that. You can make some cool animations with that. Mosaic essentially duplicates the amount of cats you have, or whatever kind of spray you have on the screen. Brightness makes it brighter. And ghost makes it start to disappear. Just like that. Very spooky. Alright. Keep in mind you can also, it doesn't have to be 0 what you're setting it to. It can be like 50. Whatever you want. It could be 100, it could be 1,000. Doesn't matter. Literally could be 1,000. So it just kind of cycles back. Because there's a weird way they do the colors and it just kind of keeps cycling, but you don't really have to understand how that works. I don't even fully understand it, and not many people do, but it's just kind of something within the Scratch API, or Application Programming Interface. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. Definitely a term you're going to want to know if you're taking notes. I'm going to save my progress, because why not? Just going to put all these away. Now, these two are pretty simple. Show and hide. Because what they do, and if you remember this right here, we can do the eye with a line through it to hide, and the normal eye to show. Same thing. Hide function hides, and show function shows. To demonstrate these layer functions, which there's 2 of, I'll actually add a spread. I'll just go with, I'll go with a bear. And I'll put him in front so he's fully blocking it. There we go. So let's say I want this bear to be like a background prop, or like part of the background. I don't want him to be in front. I want him to be back and behind everything. I can either put this bear to the back. He's going to go to the back layer. I'll just go to the very back. Or I can use my cat and go to the very front layer, just like so. And I'll only demonstrate with the cat for this layer thing. But it'll get to the very front. So even if there's like 10 layers, 10 sprites stacked on top of each other, sometimes will happen. It'll go to the very back or very front, whichever you choose. to demonstrate this, which is essentially the same drop-down parameter, but a specific amount. So instead of going to the very front or very back, it'll go a certain amount of layers. So if there's 10 layers, you go to layer 9, layer 8, layer 7, wherever you want to go between the sprites. So add a couple more sprites. I'll go with the beetle. I'll get the butterfly this time around. And I'll do another one. Oh, what should I do, guys? I'll do a bat. Now, I'm going to put my cat at the very back. Or sorry, that was the front. I'm going to put him at the very back. Okay. If I want him to be second from the top, I'm going to just go forward. Should be 3 layers, right? Just like that. So now he's in front of the bear, in front of the beetle, and in front of the butterfly, but still behind the bat. Go forward an additional layer. He's at the very front. I can even go forward 10 layers after this. I won't do anything since I'm already at the top. Okay. If I go back, I can just keep going back until I get to the very back, or I can go back a certain amount. Let's say I want to be between the bear and the beetle, but still have the beetle and bat be above me, so I'll just go to the front. I can back up 2 layers, and then I'm between the bear on one side, and then the beetle and the bat is on the other side. You can just play around with that a little bit if you like. Kind of fun to do. That's essentially how it works. You're going to find yourself using go to front by far the most often of these. You're going to find yourself using a lot. Probably just get rid of these other sprites just because. There's 3 values for looks you're going to want to know. You can show and hide these, by the way. Again, you can double click to change the way it's displayed. I'll just hide them. I usually never show these again. But we got size, we got backdrop number and name, we got costume number and name. Again, drop down parameter with 2 choices for each of these. You can do costume number, costume name, or backdrop number, backdrop name. Let me explain. You go to the costumes. At the top left is our costume number, and at the bottom is our costume name. So we got standing, which is costume number 1, and running, which is costume number 2. So currently we have standing selected, which is costume number 1, and then of course the name is standing. So I'll just demonstrate this real quick. I'll use this. So what this does, since we know that costume number is equal to 1, it should just say 1, right? If we change it to name, we know that the name is standing, so it should say standing. And so on. This is not a practical application, but it's a demonstration, and we will actually use passing these specific values for practical applications in no time. So there's only one backdrop, so we know that, and that's the only one selected, so we know it's backdrop number 1. It should say 1, right? We know the default name is backdrop 1, so it should say backdrop 1 whenever we print the name. It does, just like that. We know the size is equal to 100, so it should say 100. Boom, very cool, right? I'll put these back. So that's essentially what you need to know there. And before I go any further into sounds, I want to show you the sounds tab of the editor. And this is actually a sound editor right here. So whenever you're messing with a sound, what I would recommend you do is I would recommend you go copy to new. The reason why, oops, I actually made 2 copies. But the reason why, in case you screw something up here, you'll always have a backup replacement. For example, let's say you made a bunch of changes here because these aren't to test certain features, these actually edit the sound sample. This would be a sample is what we call it, or it's just a type of project asset or a sound effect. I'm going to stop this so it doesn't keep saying 100. And basically what you can do with this, we can copy, we can paste. Apologize if that was a bit loud for you guys. That just kind of duplicates it. I'm just going to undo that with this undo. Of course, I can play and stop. I can play and stop just like that. And I can make it go faster. I'll make it go a little softer for you guys. I'll make it go faster. Or slower. Or even slower. I just made it go faster again, so it's at default. I can mute it. And keep in mind this measures the amplitude of the wave, so if we mute it, I apologize. If we mute it, there's no waves here because, well, there's no sound, and because again, whenever it's not muted, this measures the amplitude, and amplitude is just basically another way of saying volume in this case. And because it measures the amplitude, whenever it's muted, there's no amplitude, so there's no wave. So unmute it. Fade in makes it louder. Fade out makes it softer. Kind of visualizes that here. Reverse reverses it. You can even see it visually reverse. It's kind of cool. Robot makes it a robot. So now whenever we play this, I'll go a little faster. Notice how much has changed from the original. I'll play the original for you. That's why it's always good to have a backup, just in case something goes terribly wrong. I'll change this back to meow. Let me show you how to import sounds. Oh, and then also I think I already showcased this, but I'm gonna copy and paste these, make some cool loops, things like that, and again duplicate and delete. Okay, I'll show you how to import sounds. So you can go upload one from your computer. You can grab a random one from their library. You can record one if you connect your mic to your browser and or offline editor, whichever you're using. And you can choose a sound from the library, which is the same button as this big bottom one. I'll just use this one. And basically, it's a gazillion sounds to choose from. You can also categorize and search them. Let's say I want to do drum. And there's not that many, but it's easier to just kind of search these. So, see drum, and you can also hover over this play to hear what it would sound like. Alright, we'll go with this. We'll go with drum. And we can click this again. This square means stop, and we can just stop like that. I'll go back to the code and demonstrate some sound functions for you guys. Yes, there's only 8 functions in one value, but it's still very important. So basically, this play sound. You can select the sound. You can either record one again with your mic, or you can select one that's already in your project and ask this already in your project. So meow and drum are in my project, for example. Also, you can see the duration here, just a little thing, 0.85 seconds. And 4.88 seconds. I apologize if you guys can't read it. I can hardly read it myself, but just it's a little bit hard sometimes to see it. I'll zoom in with my browser, just so you guys can see that. There's the duration of the sound effect right there. Let me actually go back. Looks like it put me out of full screen. I'm gonna go back in full screen for you guys. Oh, there we go. All right, so let's just take a look at this. Go back to our sound category. Again, instead of scrolling, you can actually just click these and go straight to the category you want to go to. So I just click sound and I'm here. Now I can go play sound until done and start sound. So what's the difference? Basically, this will keep playing it no matter what, and start sound will just start it. But I can also stop it halfway through. And then play sound until done pretty much just keeps playing it until it finishes. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We can change pitch or pan. I'll show you the difference. You're probably only going to notice the pan if you're using headphones of some kind, so keep that in mind. Well, actually, you will only notice it unless you have really good speakers. Even then, but we can change the pitch. I'll show you what the pitch does. Pitch raises frequency, or higher pitch raises frequency, and lower pitch lowers frequency. And since 100 is a default and it goes by percent, if I set it back to 100, it'll be normal. Just like that, and I don't know what happened. Maybe it got a little bit messed up since I was converting it so much. Again, that's why it's always good to keep backups of your sound effects. Also, restarting the project should reset everything. So if I just go like this, should be good. Yeah, it's good. To demonstrate pan, I'm going to use the change function. I'm going to change it by 10. So let me explain this. So pan, I'm actually going to draw something to explain this for you guys just real quickly. So think of your headphones like this. You have one ear on this side, your left ear. You have another ear on this side, your right ear. And this is kind of good to know anyways. I'm sure some of you guys already know this. But you have 100% in the middle, which means equalized. But maybe you've heard music or videos where you can only hear it in one ear, it's louder in one ear than the other. That's because the pan has changed. So if it's like 150% pan, it's going to be 50% quieter in your right ear, or sorry, 50% louder in your right ear, and 50% quieter in your left ear. Things like that. So let me demonstrate this. It's at 100 by default. But if we change it by 30%, it's 30% louder in our right ear and 30% softer in our left ear. So let's play it again. So again, if you were wearing headphones, you would have noticed that. I'm going to go by -10 now. And you can kind of watch the sound go through your head. It's pretty cool. Watch this. You guys hear that? If you had headphones, I bet you caught that. And we can set it back to 100 and just not mess with it at all. I'll just restart the project. Sometimes this setting it to 0 might work actually. Yeah, for pan setting it to 0 should work because 100 would be like right here only. Now clearing sound effects just clears it. Oh well, if it's until done, clearing won't stop it. But if we just do normal start sound, we should be able to start it while it's playing. Well, okay, maybe it's bugging a little bit. Sometimes sounds are the buggiest part of Scratch, by the way. Just know that if something isn't working with your sound functions, or something isn't working with your projects and there's a lot of sound involved, know that it could probably do with the sound. So we're always pushing out bug fixes and stuff, but I would just keep, that's something I wish I knew, since I've spent actually a lot of time trying to troubleshoot things, and I was just saying that they hadn't gotten around to fixing an update yet, or something like that. Now, your volume is essentially the volume, and volume is variant by sprite. There's no universal volume for the project, just like pitch and pan, okay? So notice how it says cat volume, because all the volume within this sprite, or within this class actually, will be at this volume, and we can always change that volume again with these kinds of functions here. And we can also double click to change how it's formatted. And volume, we can pass this, since we know our volume's at 100, for example, you just pass this function to, let's say, of course you can combine the same different colors and things like that. You can also snap blocks together of different colors in case you didn't know that yet. And so if I do say volume, it should say 100, just like that, because of course our volume is 100. Usually I never hide these, or usually I never show these, so I'm just gonna hide it, and I'm gonna stop saying this by going stop. And yep, that's pretty much it. And we'll get more into some cool things in the next lecture. In the next lecture, we're actually gonna do controls, operators, and conditions. And conditions are basically have to do with the events category. So we're basically gonna do events, control, and operators. After that, we'll do variables and sensing, and then lastly, we'll do my blocks. But after that, we'll be programming some cool stuff, and I can't wait to see you guys in lecture number 10, where we do like 3 categories. So we did 1, we just did 2 in this lecture, and we're about to do 3 categories in the next lecture. But don't worry, it'll kind of all tie together. I think you guys will really enjoy it. Again, looking forward to seeing you guys there.